Hi there. Today we are going to be reading and highlighting Lesson 2 of Unit 3, Earth and Human Activity. If you look to the table of contents, either in your digital version or physical version, you will see that Lesson 2 begins on page 16. So we are going to go to page 16 to begin. Urban flooding. Flooding in Chicago. The city of Chicago, Illinois, has 3,057 kilometers or 1,900 miles of public alleys. Years ago, city planners decided to pave the alleys with regular concrete or asphalt. However, concrete and asphalt are both impermeable. This means that water cannot absorb into them. Instead, the water remains on the surface. This creates several challenges. During heavy rains, flooding can occur. Flooding happens when water overflows into land that is normally dry. In urban areas, such as Chicago, the water also often becomes polluted. Finally, less water can absorb into the ground. As a result, aquifers cannot be replenished. Engineers solve problems. Engineers in Chicago decided to come up with solutions to reduce the amount of flooding during a big storm. Engineering is different from science, although science and engineering are connected. Scientists use experiments to gain knowledge. Engineers use that scientific knowledge and mathematics to solve a problem by creating new technologies. Similar to how scientists follow a scientific process to answer a question, engineers also follow a process. They often follow 8 steps to guide them as they create new technologies to solve problems. The engineering process begins with a problem. In Chicago, the problem was flooding that occurred when heavy rains fell on the impermeable surfaces in the city. That flooding turned into stormwater runoff that was often polluted. When engineers are defining a problem, they include the criteria. The criteria is the needs the solution must meet. They also include constraints. Constraints are ways the solution is limited. Once they have identified the problem, engineers need to research the problem to find out what is known about the problem. For example, engineers need to know that permeable materials allow water to flow through them easily. They also need to know that some materials filter water better than other materials. After engineers have researched their problem, they survey the available materials. This survey includes a sketch of the material, as well as how much of the material they have available and the properties of that material. For example, the Chicago engineers needed to think about the porosity and permeability of the materials they were planning to use. Engineers then come up with possible solutions for how the problem can be solved with the available materials. Possible solutions to flooding include designing permeable materials that can be used instead of impermeable concrete. The next step is to diagram and build a prototype. A prototype is a scaled-down first draft of a technology. Once built, engineers test the prototype. They use the test to gather data. Data are measurements and observations that capture how well the prototype solves the problem during testing. Engineers test their permeable material to see how much water it absorbs. Finally, engineers use their data to decide whether to refine or replicate. The data tells the engineers whether their prototype technology solved the problem. And that is the end of Lesson 2. Make sure you have finished highlighting, and I'll catch you in the next video.